Welcome to the Esoerotic Dark Feminine Magic podcast. My name is Crimson, creatrix of Esoeroticism, and I help mystically minded folks awaken their dark feminine magic. Welcome to the portal of enchantment. Hello, welcome to our monthly ramblings and musings with me, Crimson. And this is just a monthly podcast where I show up and speak whatever is on my mind, no notes, no script. And this month, what has been really consuming a lot of my headspace is this idea of thresholds and shifting from old paradigms to new paradigms. And so I thought today we would talk a little bit about that, but also align it with what's happening in terms of moving from old paradigms to new paradigms with esoeroticism, with me, how this can apply to you. And so I just did a workshop on this last week and it was awesome. And I could talk about this shit all day because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it majorly. And I had just recently sent out an email newsletter sharing how my moon is conjunct the galactic center, which essentially just gives my intuition or my inner knowing a bit more future orientation, a bit of a cosmic channeling of what's coming. And yeah, I've been feeling this shift of us all collectively and therefore personally, as is above, so is below, as is within, so is without. It's just everywhere right now. This shift from an old way of being into a brand new reality. And we're seeing this in a lot of ways. One way that I've really identified it is as what used to work no longer works. Can you relate? Things that used to be you tried and true, or I don't know, this always works out, doesn't seem to be working anymore. Things that used to seem so certain, uh, predictable, no longer so. This is why I think we're externally seeing a lot of shifts in our political system, our economic systems, our social systems. And by shifts, I mean like people no longer being tolerant, old ways of being really clinging to what is, to me, feels like an inevitable falling away, the death rattle, as they say. It feels like we're very much in this tower moment. And I'm seeing this with, my friends, clients, community, people really starting to question even decisions they've made. Is this the journey, the route I want to stay on? Or have I shifted into a new way of being, a new person? Do I have new desires now? Is this thing that I chose authentically and wholeheartedly in the moment, is this where I want to remain? And because if there's a lot of unfamiliarity, it's uncomfortable and it's really leading people in a few different directions. And I kind of cited this on the workshop I was talking about, that I'm seeing people who are like clinging to the past, like, oh, like I just want to go back to the way it used to be. Spoiler, the old world is donezo's, baby. There's not that, you can't go back to it. And for a lot of people, I've been saying that it feels like we've developed almost a Stockholm syndrome to an old world that was never built for us to find success in, not with ease or not naturally anyway. And the good old days weren't always good for most people, right? A select few, but yeah, so there's people who are just not okay with the discomfort of having to move beyond what is familiar, who are trying to cling to the past. And then there are the fear mongers. There are the people who are like, oh my gosh, zombie apocalypse. The world is crumbling. Get your guns, get your toilet paper, learn how to be a forest survivalist, and yeah, get ready for some unforeseen terrible circumstances that are inevitable and we're all going to suffer. And oh my gosh, get your get your grenades. And I can't get on board for that shit either, because even though I do see, I do feel like there are going to be some really unpredictable things happening probably in the near future and over the next few years. We all know, well, maybe we don't know this, but it's spoken a lot in the astrological community how we have in the beginning of July and mid-July, there are some really challenging aspects that could really activate some unpredictable change. And yeah, so I think it's always good to kind of be prepared, right? I'm not saying that we're going to need this, but maybe always have extra water on hand. Maybe always have a battery with a flashlight, extra chargers, whatever that looks like. But I'm not here to fearmonger and say like, oh my God, the world is changing and it's obviously going to be terrible and we can't handle change. I'm a devotee of the dark feminine, baby. So the way I see it is, yeah, old systems are failing. All old ways of being are going to be a thing of the past. Things that seem so certain no longer are. And get comfortable being uncomfortable. And what if we can see this as an opportunity for liberation from ways of being, from systems of oppression, from ways of being that we're minimizing, that we're marginalizing? And what if we can see this as an opportunity to shift from this old way of being to liberate from something that was not really serving us at the highest good, even though we learned to survive it? We had that Stockholm syndrome with, well, I learned how to survive it. Y'all, what if we can shift from survival to thriving? And what if we can see this as an opportunity for great possibility of creative rebirth, of new realities, of new versions of self, of new opportunities and potentials? That's how I'm choosing to move through this threshold that we're at right now. Old paradigm to new paradigm, focusing on liberation. It's real easy. I think we've been in a big manifestation era. Like more is more. And believe me, I'm a maximalist. Hello, if you're watching this, I'm in my living room today and there's like 5 different animal prints all around me. I'm giving Peg Bundy, if you will. More is more, less is a bore. But speaking of our magic, what if this is not a time to use our magic to try to manifest more? Because what if all that's doing is helping us exist in a bigger cage? Right now, I'm interested in using my magic to liberate beyond the cage. I'm no longer interested in these invisible chains holding us to a reality that we've outgrown. You've outgrown it and I've outgrown it. We've been doing the work. And so right now, I've been really focused on liberation. Old thought patterns, old belief systems, old emotions that I'm holding on to from past experiences that are no longer serving me, old system and structures that I am unconsciously contributing towards, feeding. I don't want to be feeding these toxic patriarchal systems anymore. I don't want to be clinging to a capitalistic structure that exhausts me and underserves so many. Not that and like full clarity, I still participate in capitalism because, hello, we have to play the hand we're dealt, right? I still exist within patriarchy. I have not figured out how to ascend beyond all of that, but awareness of that there are so many ways that I have had to survive and that I've gotten really good at surviving in a system that we've, like I said, outgrown, that's crumbling. We're in a tower moment. And so liberating first from what I think I need to manifest and really getting clear, is this really what I'm moving towards in the new paradigm? And a lot of times the answer has been no. That's not where you're heading. And so I've been really big on this idea of liberation and aligning. And so this is, there's so many tools within our dark feminine that we can lean on right now, that are so powerful. Being able to liberate, that's to from unconscious chains, that's huge in the dark feminine. Finding embodiment, man, we're in an age, are we in an age of information? We just had Uranus enter Gemini. It's going to be there for 7 years, but we have we have so many of the outer planets are like, and the planets in general actually right now, not all of them, but fire and air, and so yeah, I think all the outer planets are on fire and air right now. So that's a big collective influence, which means that we're thinking a lot and we're reacting a lot. So what we need is embodiment, and we need to drop into our intuition to counterbalance that. And but we are going to energetically feel like, I need more information. Give me more information, especially in times of uncertainty. Man, our intuition could be telling us something, but when we're not embodied and we haven't, well, I'll get to this in a moment, but as another asset, but just embodiment, this idea of, we don't need more information, we need more embodiment. We need to be alchemizing this information that we're constantly taking in, and we need to alchemize it into an embodied knowing, an embodied wisdom. And the only way to do that is to express through it, right? See what resonates, leave what doesn't. But then also getting into the body as a way, it is a form of liberation, actually, but getting in the body, embodiment, as a way to connect with our inner oracle, our inner guidance, as a way that is going to lead us in a time where we can't rely on logic, because our logic is tied to what we have experienced or have witnessed in the past. In new paradigms, we have nothing to base our logic on, because systems have changed, life has changed, the world has changed, we have changed. And so we can't allow logic to be our guide. We have to trust our inner knowing, that greater wisdom that we have. And so I also believe that it's through the body is how we do so much healing and transformation. We can't consciously heal, and we can't consciously transform. We can understand the information. We can understand what needs to happen. We can understand why we're in a space that we are. But if we want to shift that's the inner work. That's the depth work, the dark feminine depth. That's the subconscious work. This is why in Esoeroticism, we always speak to how this is beyond dance. We use the dance as a somatic way to drop into our subconscious self. That's where the transformation happens. It's part of our ritualistic technique in the modality. And so reading another book, getting a script, even talk therapy, things like that. You're listening to a podcast right now. Like, we love the conscious. I love the conscious, but that's not where the deep transformation comes from. And that's not where the depth of wisdom comes from. So yeah, embodiment, having embodiment practices, and then erotic energy as creative life force. That's another one right now. We drop in the body, and a lot of, there's so many different embodiment practices, and they're all so many are so effective, but there's not so many that can also align you with your creative life force. And again, this is why I'm like a big esoerotic fan, If you're going to do embodiment, if you're going to, a lot of people are seeking to, to, to balance their nervous system. And to me, the work, I'll talk about what the work is growing into, but at this point, like, it ain't that for me anymore. Like, that's a base level. We should all have embodiment practices that can help regulate our nervous systems. This is beyond regulating your nervous system. This is about getting yourself beyond that point where you have a creative life force that is magnetic, that is passion led, that is dropping you into a greater turn on. And another way that we can think about how this is such a huge asset is because when we can drop into that embodied turn on, pleasure becomes a guide for us. Pleasure becomes our inner oracle beyond intuition. Use those, to me, they can be one and the same, or they can work together in really like deep alchemical ways. There's so many different ways the dark feminine can guide us right now. A lot of it is feeling safe, learning to feel comfortable in the unknown, in the darkness, in the depths, in the womb, in the mystery, this time where I can't tell you what the future holds. We have not created it yet. So there is no saying what awaits on the other side of the threshold in the new paradigm, but I can tell you energetically what I'm feeling for myself and for the collective. And there is no way that we can say there is a certainty and therefore I can feel safe now. We need to learn to feel safe not knowing what's around the corner, not knowing what the future holds, not knowing what our future holds. Ooh, and that's the work. That's embodiment work. That's depth work. That's big part of Esoeroticism, reconnecting with your body, finding safety in your body, in your primal, erotic, sexual energy and expression. Really how we find safety is by stripping away fear, shame, judgment, disassociation we have with ourselves. And I can definitely say, as femmes, a lot of it does stem from our bodies and our sexuality. I think really, well, I'll get to that. No, we're going to flow right into it. This is a rambling anyway. So part of the dark feminine is just being comfortable in the unknown, because we know that is the womb. That is the place of creation. That's where rebirth happens. You don't get on the other side in the new paradigm without moving through the unknown. Okay. And so there is, I think as femmes, we're really being called to reclaim our bodily autonomy and our sexual sovereignty right now. That's at the essence of, if you're new to this Esoeroticism, if you're new to this work, it is the only movement modality that alchemizes erotic embodiment and expression with esoteric magic and ritual. And at its core, it allows us to reclaim our sexual sovereignty and bodily autonomy. Oh my gosh. And to me, that's like the biggest part of this work. So I have been going through it myself, shedding. Oh my gosh, y'all. I was just before I started recording, I took the trash out. Sexy, I know. But there was a big old black snake, and they're just Carolina snakes. They're not venomous. They're totally fine. They actually, are good to manage the wildlife around here. But I was like, shedding. Talk about shedding when you get on the on the podcast. Because I believe that 2026 has really been asking us to shed the old versions of ourselves, the liberation. Who were you once that you are no longer? Who are you now, having done the work, ready to step into? And the world is along for the ride. The world is going through it too. There's only so much that the world can sustain under such toxic conditions that we're in a phase of a rebirth. I'm not saying like, oh my God, we're all going to be like kumbaya and singing around the fire and all of that. I'm not saying sunshine and rainbows and lollipops are ahead of us. If you could just have a positive mindset, I would never suggest that. But I would say in times of what I'm perceiving is inevitable change, being able to lean on your dark feminine tools, being in your body, and being in your creative potential rather than being in a state of victim. The world is happening to me. There's people that is going to be their reality. I'm not choosing that reality, and I'm not choosing to move forward in this work with people who are choosing that reality. Full disclosure. So yeah, what has been shedding? For me, the shedding has obviously been uncomfortable. Shedding happens when we outgrow our skin, and yeah, it's required a lot of confusion, because who I once was and what this work once was has completed itself. Not as a failure. Changing and shedding is not bad. It's proof of growth. But sometimes we forget that we're meant to grow and expand. And my intuitive eye, whatever, is seeing that a lot of people are actually being asked to step up into their greater mastery right now in recognition of what that is. I also see this is why we're seeing a lot of gurus and a lot of bullshit artists and a lot of grifters getting called out, because reality is revealing that right now. And so those people who we maybe perceived as like being so wise or so successful, and we're seeing like, oh my God, they were not practicing what they preach. Like, they were grifters. They were diddling kids. They were, being terrible humans, treating their employees terribly, whatever. Yeah, that's being highly exposed right now. And and those who are the true masters, which is, spoiler, all of us, are being asked to step in as the master of what we know, of our realities, of our lives, and stop seeking it outside of ourselves. And so that was all over the place. So that's actually one thing that I have really been identifying with lately, is that the world needs let me not speak to what the world needs. Let me speak to what's happening in my reality. What I am seeing is that for my work, for Esoeroticism and the way I lead it, I don't see myself as being like a healer. I've never used the word healer, but because I have seen how this modality can be so healing. And if you've experienced it in that way, I mean, I've experienced it in that way, but it's not what I'm leading with. I'm leading with, instead of being a healer or even like a teacher at this point, and I'll get to that. I keep saying, and I'll get to that. I don't want to skip over the details that are building up, but I'm seeing myself as a threshold guide. So a threshold guide, it would just be someone that helps people move through portals into their greater potential. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I've had to really sit with this year. Like, what is Esoeroticism? How do I want to move forward with it? What is my work? And what has become really clear is a lot of chapters have closed. Not because, again, they were failures, but because they're complete. One of them being, we know a year and a half ago, I closed the studio Minx and Muse in Austin. If you didn't know, now you know. I had a physical space in Austin, Texas. And so I sold that and moved to the East Coast. So that was a chapter that closed. And that was where I was really like a persistent, is that word, persistent teacher? I was teaching a whole lot. And I'll always be a teacher, but I'm just like seeing it through different lenses now. And then I moved here and I still had our virtual studio, the Esoerotic Multiverse. June is the last month for that. That just felt very complete. And one thing that I realized after I did choose to close that was that, oh my goodness, that was really keeping me tethered to the class, because that membership functioned in Central time zone. I live in Eastern time zone. That's an hour in the past. And it has been fucking with my head for the past year and a half, trying to schedule everything in a time zone I don't live in, and trying to speak about times in time zones I don't live in. And so, yeah, I was like, oh my God, I've been tethering myself to the past through this multiverse. I love the multiverse. Forever deep love to our community. That virtual community was worldwide, and it was not an easy decision to make, but it was a very solid and clear decision. And just as when I felt very clear and solid that it was time to move on from the studio, it felt very clear and solid that it was time to move on from the multiverse. And so, where does that leave me? And where does it leave this work? Well, I see this work, its next iteration. And I want you to think about, like, as I'm speaking, how does this apply to your life? What in your life is kind of following the same trajectory? Because this is not like, let me just indulge you talking about myself, which would really just be indulging me. Uh, but I think that there's a commonality across a lot of different people's individual experiences that are kind of having, like, this same path. And so, yeah, what I see it now is being a lot more refined and defined in what it is that I want to lead in. And so, for instance, I am starting Esoerotic Body, which is an 8-week virtual program that starts Sunday, June 14th. You can join after, but to do the live sessions, we start June 14th. Would love for you to join. But let me tell you what it is. It's my life's work up to this point. No big deal. But I had to really sit there and say, what is Esoeroticism? What is the work? And I was able to really, obviously there's depth to it. It's ongoing, but those 8 weeks are really my teachings at their core, at their essence, that then can go deeper in depth. And of course, there's always going to be ancillary teachings. I love a lot of cerebral talking like this, but I can do that through podcasting, through newsletters, through writing, through my Substack, through the book that I swear I'm going to get done this year. But this is the embodiment experience. And I don't think, well, it's not that I don't think, I know no one has experienced esoeroticism in this way, because it's my first time leading it in this way. I've changed a lot of the classes. I've changed a lot of the rituals. They've become refined. They've become more somatic based. I've actually become more stripped back, which was like such a challenge to like shed what isn't necessary to find the essence of something. I'm so fucking proud of this 8-week series, Esoerotic Body. It's the body of esoerotic work. And yeah, there is movement, there's dance, there's dark feminine teaching, there's ritual, there is feminine sovereignty, there's reclamation, there's mysticism, all in this programmatic experience. And being able to put that out there as like, this is it, this is my work, and to stop trying to create more and to just focus on the essence feels huge, because I am interested in working as a threshold guide through what I have experienced as the most potent form of magic that I've been able to then facilitate and to guide others into teaching. So those who are, this work is not for people who are at the beginning. I'm realizing, like, people who are new to the idea of somatics or mysticism or spirituality, or soul aligned in some way. This has definitely like an aged maturity to it, this work, for people who are they themselves ready to liberate into like greater dark feminine embodied leadership in their own right. I think that things like eroticism, esoeroticism, this is a way to access our sexual erotic life force energy outside of the bedroom, is the missing component to a lot of spiritual movement, somatic, um, psychotherapy practices out there, because it brings in the feminine, it brings in the life force, it brings in a greater depth of embodiment and reclamation. It is moving from being, remember I said before, emotionally regulated, it's moving from being emotionally regulated and surviving into living a life that is thriving, that is lit up, that is turned on, that is liberated, that is led from pleasure as an inner oracle, not as a treat to oneself. Yeah, all of that. I mean, I'm I'm resisting the urge to just teach the whole thing right now. But it's been distilled in Esoerotic Body. And then so yeah, so here's what I see going forward for me. I'm going to be running Esoerotic Body. I'll put the link in the show notes. Join. If you've been, if all of this has been kind of turning you on, and the idea of Esoeroticism in general, and you're just like, I don't know how to engage with it. This is how you engage with it. This is how you join, and this is how, this is going to be an intimate group, and it's going to then inform everything moving forward. And so I see these kind of intimate group containers. The Esoerotic Body informs my one-on-one work. So I see people who are like, I want um to work with you privately one-on-one to go like deeper in my own direction. Perfect. Something I forgot to mention is that, well, no, I'm mentioning it in the right time. I have been called, no one's calling me. Hey girl, answer the phone because I gotta call you too. I have been feeling lit up and turned on by astrology. I have been studying astrology since 2013, and we have our in-house astrologer Tara Valkyrie, who's fucking amazing. And so I've learned a lot from her. I've just learned a lot from other astrologers, and it has just come like this past 6 months have been, not 6 months, I would say like 3 months. It has been like, girl, hey girl, study me more, start integrating me. And so I have been starting to do astrological readings around specifically the natal chart. Know thyself. Whenever I speak of magic, I say the greatest purpose of magic is to know thyself. So then you can show up as that. And when you show up as that, liberate it from the old stories, from the old external need for external validation. Yeah, that is how you become so magnetic, in flow, in soul alignment, in purpose. And so I have found it to be so helpful. So anyway, in Esoerotic Body, it comes with an hour one-on-one with me, because I also want those 8 weeks to be able to be, not say tailored to each individual, but being able to get at the root of how each person can work with this series for their greatest intention. And so I'm including the one-on-one in the Esoerotic Body, but I'm also incorporating more. I've always kind of done tarot on the back end. People will just like message me to do tarot readings, and I do that, and just intuitive guidance as well. But now I'm putting astrology in it as well, and I freaking love it. We have a retreat, oh my gosh, in like a week and a half, solstice weekend, and we still have a few spots if anyone's interested in joining. But that is also coming with an astrological reading, because I want people to come into the weekend with an understanding of what their blueprint is around the theme. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to leave it a little mysterious. But yeah, there's just been this desire for me, and I'm just following the turn on. That's what eroticism is. It awakens you to your turn on. What is turning me on? Let my new comfort level, let my new familiarity being turned on and lit up in my body, not like contracted and freaking out and in a state of external influence. No, I'm writing the narrative here, baby. That's Esoeroticism. And Esoeroticism, we acknowledge that we rewrite our life story from the inside out. That's where our life is authored from the inside out. It is not life happening to us, and it's not oh, I'm going to wear an outfit and all of a sudden my life is going to change. I'm going to have more information and my life is going to change. No, it comes from rewriting our inner subconscious stories. And the subconscious is not just the mind, the subconscious is the fucking body. The body holds on to so much information. And so, and you'll see it for those who are taking Esoerotic Body, there's going to be more somatic tools woven into the erotic expression, which is really cool. There already has been a lot, but not in a way where it's like, this is weird, but like very seamlessly so. Yeah, I'm so into it. And so I'm super into like as a threshold guide, how can I really support people, not tell people, I'm not a guru, not as some up on a high horse, I know all the wisdom, sit at my feet and and let me tell you what you should believe and what you should do. Never. In fact, I'd be wary of anyone who is showing up in that energy right now, because that's not it. So yeah, as a threshold guide, how can I help you liberate? How can I help you connect with like that erotic, I guess, set point and energetic flame, that inner oracle, that is that guide that no one else can tell you your path. You have to author it from within. And that's my job, to help you do that, to go from the old paradigm to the new paradigm in your most authentic and lit up and joyous and juicy version of self and liberate it. And so, yeah, that's where I'm seeing the work going. So, which again, this is very unfamiliar to me. So I'm in the trenches also, like, okay, yeah, I'm stepping through the threshold and doing this. I'm moving past what I maybe was once really entrenched in, which was the daily, like, teaching regular classes. And here's maybe some guidance for you. I have this written in my notebook. Rejection is redirection. What is not working in your life right now? Maybe it's not that, oh my God, like, I'm being rejected. Like, oh, it's not working. Right now, the universe is redirecting us. So anything that feels like rejection is probably a redirection. I was, didn't make it easy, but I was able to read it and say, and the universe was real clear, because I moved here thinking, oh my God, I'm going to like meet this new community and I'm going to start teaching classes here. And I was very much perceiving like a Minx and Muse 2.0. And the universe is like, no, girl, that's not what you're here to do. You're not here to build another local community. And I did try, and it was met with such resistance, where everything that was so easeful in Austin, because I was on path, right? I was aligned, was not working here. And I was like, okay. And I really had to like do this. Okay, well, that's because that's not who you are anymore. Do you want to do that anymore? No, you don't want another studio. What are you doing? I want to be the author of this work, and I want to bring this very specific work to the world, for those who need it. And then I'm going to concentrate on certifications, because what has been really cool, we have an awesome certification group this year, the Esoerotic certifications. And what's really different from other certifications that I've done is that it's very much designed intentionally to integrate with other people's well of wisdom. So we have body workers, we have therapists, we have people with other movement modalities, people who are completely new but have their own personal wisdom and their own magic and mystical practices. And so it's being taught in a way where it's like, you take esoeroticism and these core classes that you'll be certified to teach if you take the 2.0 route. I also have a 1.0 route that just teaches dark feminine and ritualization. But you take, for those who are taking the actual teacher certification, and then you're supposed to integrate it with your authenticity. This is not like a putting out a bunch of mini crimsons out there, repeat what I say. No, it's meant to integrate with people's authenticity. And so certification 2027, I'm already, seeing that as a big focus for me. And I would love to still do retreats. I'm just really, that's still figuring out what that is, whether they're collaborations, whether it is something like we teach Esoerotic body in person over a week. That could be really cool. Open to the mystery, just moving forward and trusting the intuition, but I don't have to make that decision now. But there will definitely be retreats in the future, just not sure specifically what, don't need to know. And then my final thing is I have been working with my biz bestie, Emily Rose, and she and I started a business coven. We love it. It's, I think, the future of business coaching, in that it's not like take my one size fit all thing and do it, steal my strategy. I don't know how many people out there are entrepreneurs or solopreneurs or, small business people, but what she and I spoke to and devoted to before we started the coven is we are there. And now we didn't have the word threshold guides, but to help people find themselves so that they can self-source their success on their authentic path, aligned with their mission, aligned with their energetic propensities. And of course, we bring our guidance, we bring our expertise. We both have done a lot within our career. Especially we work with people with more, feminine led businesses, but I love it. And so she and I are working on an offering that's going to involve my astrological chart reading, which I've done probably about 15 charts, or maybe 12 to 15 charts at this point. That take me hours to do, because I'm going into people's specifically natal chart readings for business, and kind of career focus. And for those who are looking to realign with okay, what's my soul business? How can what should I be pursuing? And how do I energetically align that is natural versus this coach told me to do this or this expert told me to do this. So we're taking that and we're mixing it with somatics, some somatic techniques to open people to greater capacity for growth, for income, all of those things. And then business strategy. Emily's excellent in kind of taking what my readings are and implementing it into some really brilliant coaching and opening people up to much greater capacity. And so that's something we're working on too. And so, yeah, that's kind of new paradigm, what I'm headed into. And I'm excited for it. It feels good. I finally, feel like this next new paradigm for me that I'm stepping into. And this is just with my work in Esoeroticism. This isn't the whole world life experience. But making space. I am, so speaking of astrology, don't know if you know astrology, but my MC has a conjunction with my sun close by it with Vesta, which means that my work is my identity and is a sacred calling in Cancer, for those who are taking notes. But and this is why I love astrology. I never really realized that until recently. And I've seen it, but I never really sat with that. And it's you're never going to have an identity that's outside of your work, because this is all in the 10th house. And that's fine, and I have a lot of my planetary energies into guiding others through I'm going to be honest, through creating a modality. Through getting people to, through information, wisdom, my writing, talking, all of this, through getting people to step into a greater realization of their potential and guiding them through that. Yeah, and so it's I don't want we don't need to just hear my whole chart, but one of the things is that I am now I have a propensity to be a workhorse. And oh gosh, you know what happened? You know what hit me this year? Perimenopause. In fact, this morning I got, well, hopefully this is, so I have been really going through some body shifts, some energy shifts, in a way that I had not experienced before. They started on my 45th birthday. My 46th birthday is in a couple weeks. And so it's been like a year. And well, that's when I realized I was getting it, because I'm getting a lot of hot flashes. But I was like, I was having trouble getting out of bed someday, and that is not me. And so I went to the doctor, got my panels back. Turns out I have zero testosterone, and I was really vitamin D and B12 deficient. And so I'm getting injections and stuff for that now. So I'm finally getting my energy back, hopefully, because I have really had a lot of even brain fog. So you may have noticed on these ramblings, but I'm excited to get that part of me back, but with the understanding that I'm not getting it back to go back to my overworking, overgiving, um, overdoing it in my life. Trying to find a bit more spaciousness in my life. I see a lot of my future work involving travel, being able to travel and to do experiences, to have people come here and do in-person experiences privately or in small groups, as well as retreats. And that requires a flexibility in schedule. And so it's requiring me to like, okay, get rid of like the rigidity of like, right now teaching multiple virtual classes a week, just in the multiverse alone. And yeah, having some space for my life as well, which I have not always prioritized. Um, Even though I just said my life is, that sun conjunct the MC with Vesta is like your whole identity is your work and your sacred calling. But for instance, something that I haven't shared, unfortunately, both of my parents have gone through a lot of, illness. My mom moved through a couple strokes last year, and so, um, she's doing well now, which is great. But my dad is in early onset Alzheimer's, which fucking sucks, by the way. If anyone's had to go, I went through it with my grandmom, so I'm familiar with that. And so I just want space to go be able to spend time with them. I'm going, after I finish Esoerotic Body, I'm going to Jersey for a couple weeks to spend with them and just enjoy time. I haven't felt like I've been able to travel so much. And this is probably a lot of people, this is having a job, right? But if I have the job where I can choose what I do, I'm choosing to have a little bit more spaciousness so I can start returning to cultivating more friendships, spending more time with family, just having downtime for me. And to me, this is part of liberating from a patriarchal system that I have felt so tethered to, where I have to work in order to be valued, in order to be successful. What work has to look like? Well, if I'm working, I have to work from 9 to 5 on the weekdays, right? Like 9 to 7 on the weekdays, 9 to midnight on the weekdays, whatever. And then on the weekends too, you got to come in on weekends. Deconstructing all of this and really coming down to the essence. What matters? What matters? What turns you on? What feels light? I work with a wonderful, I'll put her information in the show notes too, a wonderful intuitive guide for my work. Her name's Aisha Rose, and we were talking about this on our last call, just about, okay, what does, because she's like, yeah, girl, we are in a paradigm shift, it's happening. And she's always been super supportive. And she was like, being light, going through the threshold, feeling light, meaning liberated, meaning leaving behind what you've outgrown, what has cycled its way through. And I do feel like when you lead with what turns you on, like there's a lightness to that. So maybe that's how we can wrap up this ramble. So now you know what's next for me. conceivably, I don't know, we don't know what the world, who knows what's coming. Tara and I are still going, even though we're ending the multiverse, I'm gonna see if Tara can still, maybe not every month, but do some astrology forecasts for us. And July is a big one, and so who knows what's going to happen in the world. But that's where I am. That's where I found myself, and all of these things that I just shared with you feel light in a way that they don't feel empty. They feel light because they feel utterly expansive versus contractive. So when things feel contractive, we can in our body feel that and say, okay, this is a fear. This is a clinging. This is a lack in belief in myself and a lack in connection with like something's out of resonance, right? And so if you can walk through the threshold in this lightness, in this liberation, in this aligned turn on, feeling good, feeling lit up, not feeling victimy, feeling like, ooh, being turned on by the creative potential of the darkness. And y'all, in the new paradigm, we are not treating our bodies as battlegrounds. We're treating them as portals. This is another thing in the esoerotic body that we're really tapping into, your body is a fucking portal. So stop battling it. Start learning how to work with it in a magical way. And so maybe that's one thing that you can start, because I know everyone I talk to, and anyone who's kind of connected to the energetic nuance, who has energetic sensitivity, who is paying attention to what's going on in the world as well, knows that we're at a threshold, that there is something ending and something beginning, and we're co-creating our future right now. And I would love for you to be with me, walking through the threshold in liberation, excited in the creative potential. And so thank you so much for listening. This was really fun to try to get what's been swimming in my mind out of the old pie hole. And seriously, message me. I want to hear, like, do you feel this? Did any of this resonate? We're all in this together, y'all. So I hope to see some of you in Esoerotic Body. I know I'll see some of you at the retreat soon. And maybe doing some astrology readings or business work together. Who knows where the world will take us? But I really appreciate you tuning in. Mwah! I love you. I'll see you again soon. Bye. Thank you for joining. Follow me on Instagram at crimson.minx and visit esoerotic.com to learn to live more fully and unapologetically in your magnetic power, sensual pleasure, and unlimited creative potential.